Carmine.
Hey, Vin, how are you, bud?
How are you, my man?
I'm well. Thank you.
I look forward to our check-ins. It's Carmine Montori, VP and Business Insurance Agent at VF McNeil Insurance. 25 years with the company. That's something, man. You know what's really something else, too, is what we were scheduled to talk about this week. I just had to take here at work my annual, it might be twice annual, your sexual harassment quiz, if you will. And then I was telling a friend of mine that who is a producer, works in television in L.A., and she was like, I'm in the middle of taking that myself right now. She sent me a screenshot of it's not really a difference in the questions. But it is interesting now, the parameters as far as sexual harassment, like even this is not cool. Like, I'll get some wrong, Carmine. I'll be honest with you. They'll ask, you see a coworker who's drastically changed her hairstyle. You, A, say you love it, looks great. B, you say nothing. You don't even act like it happened. Or you see, whatever the third option is. My thing is, say it looks great. Good for you. Tried something different. It's, no, dude.
Silence is golden, Vin.
Don't even comment on it.
Silence is golden.
Yeah,
remember that.
Now, so it's interesting that they hand me, they're like, this is what we want to talk about. And the question is, what if a business owner, the owner does everything, but they make sure, Vinny, don't even mention that she's now a blonde. She's not, as far as you're concerned. What happens when an owner does do everything possible, adheres to every rule, every regulation, every policy, even if there are things in place that they're like, yeesh, that's a stringent, but I am. Can they still be faced with a lawsuit? And what kind of lawsuit?
Certainly. They definitely can, and it's Employment Practices Liability. You could do everything within your controls, everything properly, and still end up on the wrong side of wrong end of litigation, whether or not you did something wrong or didn't do something wrong. Unfortunately, that's the society that we live in now. And when it comes to these matters, it's very important. It is a very important coverage. There's, first and third party. First party being, anything that happens within your office that's under your control or your realm. Third party could even be something like, one of the delivery guys that comes in every day and that decides they want to, talk to the receptionist, and perhaps he or she feels uncomfortable from those conversations, and a suit emanates. You had nothing to do with it. You don't even employ the delivery guy.
Yeah.
But it still happened on your watch.
Yeah.
So, you can have a situation there. That's one of the more common ones, but there are things that go out, to all different areas with this particular type of litigation. So you got to be very, very careful. And honestly, it's best to have the coverage in place and have your agent
absolutely
go over it with you. And I would also go as far as to say you should have an individual policy in place, not just an endorsement on your policy, which is a smaller, lesser amount and lesser coverage. You should really have a full policy then for that.
Yeah. It's interesting. The story that I just shared with you right there, I actually shared with my boss at one point. We have a great relationship. We laugh. He did not find entertaining because I guess, it's a huge corporation. It's iHeartMedia and national scale. He's like, really? He's like, I get your sense of humor. Everybody gets your sense of humor. He got so serious on me. He's like, but across the country, you don't know how many lawsuits a day, et cetera, no matter how great your relationship might be with so-and-so, or, a given employees might be with so-and-so. When it's time for someone to leave 6 months later, if they leave kind of ugly 6 months later, 7 months later, they might decide, hey, so-and-so was always a nuisance. He's like, it's tricky stuff for a guy like me because it makes such tiptoeing necessary that a lot of great friendships can't be born out of that tiptoeing. But I guess you got to play by the boss's rules and just be cognizant.
It's a difficult time to be someone who has a sense of humor.
Yes.
Because some people just don't see that and they don't get it that way. And I understand where you're coming from because I have a very similar very similar personality where I do like to, talk to people, and it is hard. You have to just watch what you say, and keep in mind this is not just sexual harassment. It stems to hiring and firing practices, things of that nature. So it's all forms of employment litigation that could come into play. And again, I can't stress enough. If you're a business owner and you have any employees, especially if you have more than 3 or 4. You really need to talk to your agent and get this coverage put in place and get it done properly, because it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. You will have a lawsuit. There's just not a doubt in my mind. It's one of the fastest growing claim segments out there, along with cyber. So it's very, very important coverage right now.
Yeah.
And it's honestly not that expensive.
Yeah. Well, can you? What is one of the differences from a small? And that's what I like about VF McNeil too. When I first got the copy points on what it is you guys do and how long you've been doing it. I comment on that every week. It's the fact that it's like, look, the little mom and pop, the little shop on the corner, to that big manufacturing. There must be differences, no? Or are there not, as far as business size is concerned?
100%. Like I said, as I mentioned earlier, if you're a small mom and pop shop, okay, it's just you, maybe a family member, maybe 1 or 2 employees, you might be able to get away with what's called an endorsement on a policy that gives you perhaps $50,000 of employment practices coverage. Okay, so it's kind of an add-in, it's maybe $20, $30. So, you could possibly get away with that. Anybody with more than probably 5 employees, I would say you should probably go for the full policy, and those become a little bit more expensive. But it's really something that you have to look at, Vin, on every account and gauge the type of industry. Like, for whatever reason, certain industries are more prevalent to have EPLI claims.
Yeah.
So if it were one of those higher risk industries, I might not, even if there's only 3 or 4 employees, I might not say that endorsement really isn't great for you. Your particular industry seems to see a lot of claims. I would probably go with the full policy. And ultimately the client can make the choice, and whatever meets their budget too, obviously. But I think you just have to have an honest conversation with the business owner and explain to them the ramifications of not having the coverage, and then also explain the different types of coverage and why an endorsement or a policy is better for that particular business. Yeah,
it's interesting you say that, and coming full circle on the whole chat this week, that friend of mine who was showing me her, she was going through her orientation or whatever, the harassment, she had to check the boxes for the various questions. And like I said, her being a producer in television, one difference between my test and her test, whatever you want to call it, was they're in different trailers. So there's like trailer conduct because you're on the set of a television show or a film, and you have to take into consideration how much alone time does an employee have with other employees, and some employees that are subcontracted passing through. So it just seemed like, wow, yours is much more challenging and daunting than mine. So business to business, you got to make sure you get the right fit.
100%. I can't stress that enough. Again, for nothing else, I mean, you really just need to have the conversation with your agent, explain to them your concerns, and hopefully they know what they're doing, and they can go over everything with you in a manner in which they can give you the appropriate coverage that suits your needs, i.e. Cost-wise, coverage-wise, and also based on the industry segment or business segment that you're in, and the potential for that particular business to have more claims associated with it. Again, there are certain business segments, I'm not going to mention them here, but there are definitely certain business segments that seem to have a higher number of these type of claims.
Yeah. Great stuff. I'm enjoying these, like I end it every week. I'm enjoying these check-ins with Carmine Montori, VP Business.
I'm going to miss them when we're done, Vin. I might just call you on our own.
I know. Well, it's good stuff. It's informative stuff, too. And like I say when I talk about VF McNeil during the show, so much has changed. It's a fluid situation right now. Make sure you've got the right insurance right now. So it's actually a viable segment beyond, when these end, you might just be a regular, Carmine. We shall see if you wind up being a regular on the project. But it's VF McNeil Insurance. And I enjoy them. Enjoy the weekend. We'll talk again next week, I suppose.
You too. Take care, Vin. Have a great weekend.
See you, bud.